All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of VR?
Always. Let's do it.
Today, we're tackling Meta's brand new Quest 3S headset, and we're going to figure out if it's actually worth upgrading to.
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Exactly, especially for folks out there who already have the Quest 2. Like, is this a must-have, or is this just like a little refresh?
Hmm.
So to help us break it all down, we're looking at this awesome Forbes article. It's by wearable tech expert Andrew Williams. And the cool thing is he actually got to compare the 3S directly with the Quest 2.
Oh, nice. Side by side.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that really caught my eye is this whole mixed reality thing that Meta keeps talking about with the 3S.
Right.
So it's not just about VR anymore. They're trying to really blend the virtual world with, like, our actual surroundings.
Yeah, and one way they're doing that is with this new color pass-through.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
So remember the Quest 2 had that black and white pass-through feature?
Oh, yeah. Kind of grainy, right?
Yeah. Well, now with the 3S, you can actually see your surroundings in full color. Rawr.
While you're still in VR. I mean, the article even mentioned that you can actually read, like, text messages through the pass-through.
So you wouldn't have to take the headset off.
It's supposed to feel a lot more, real immersive.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
So it's not just for gaming then. They're really trying to make this like an everyday kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Integrate it more into, like, daily life. I mean, it's not perfect.
Right.
The article did say that the feed can get kind of noisy and soft,
Yeah.
especially in low light.
I see. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Still early days for this kind of tech.
Right. It's a big step. I mean, especially when you think about how much better this is compared to, like, the old Quest 2.
Totally.
And it makes me wonder, where are we going to be in a couple of years?
And especially with like, things like Apple's Vision Pro coming out. Like,
Yeah.
are they going to push each other even further?
That's about this.
Okay, so color pass-through, that's a big plus. What else stood out to you? Okay, well, there's this new action button on the 3S, which, at first it seems kind of like a small detail,
Yeah.
but it actually makes a really big difference to like how it feels to use it.
I love when it's those little things.
Yeah. So basically, it lets you switch like instantly between full VR and the pass-through mode where you can see your surroundings.
Gotcha.
With the Quest 2, remember you had to like double tap the side
Yes.
to make that switch?
Yeah.
And this is like a dedicated button.
Oh, I see. So it's like a much quicker...
Yeah, more intuitive, I think. Like, especially if you're in the middle of some intense VR game, you need to quickly check something in the real world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to be fumbling around trying to double tap when zombies are attacking you.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes everything smoother.
Nice. All right, let's talk about something a bit more technical. The lenses.
Okay.
The article kind of hints that there might be good news and bad news here.
Yeah. So both the Quest 2 and the new 3S, they still use Fresnel lenses,
Okay.
which are known for, they have a pretty narrow sweet spot.
So explain that to me. What does that mean?
So you really have to position the headset just right on your face to get that, like, crystal clear view. If it's even a little bit off, things can get blurry, especially in your peripheral vision.
Oh, okay.
So it's really picky about, like, fit.
Gotcha. So it's almost like, what's that thing called? When you have to adjust a microscope to get the perfect focus?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get it just right or everything's a little fuzzy.
And this is one area where the standard Quest 3 might actually have an advantage.
How so?
Well, it uses those fancier pancake lenses,
Okay.
and they have like a much wider sweet spot.
So it's a bit more forgiving.
Yeah, but, that's a topic for another deep dive, I think.
I'm putting that on the list. Now, performance. This is what everyone wants to know. The 3S has that new Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip, which sounds super impressive, but also like a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
So break it down for us. What does that actually mean for the user?
Well, think of it this way. These chips are like the brains of the headset.
Okay.
So they really determine, like, how smoothly everything runs, how quickly.
Gotcha.
And this new XR2 Gen 2, it's a serious upgrade from what's in the Quest 2.
I see.
Like, think of it, it's like going from a phone, a phone that can barely run any of the new apps,
Yeah.
to one that can, like, handle anything you throw at it.
Okay, that's a comparison I can understand.
Yeah, and it means that, you're going to see better visuals, smoother performance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's likely we'll even see games that just won't run on the old Quest 2.
Oh, wow. Like they're exclusive to this new generation.
Yeah, I mean, the reviewer mentioned Batman. Arkham Shadow looks like it'll be one of those exclusives.
So you're telling me I need to upgrade just to play Batman. Okay, fair enough. But, VR headsets can be so clunky and uncomfortable. What about comfort? Did they do anything to improve the dreaded strap situation?
That was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
The 3S strap, it's only slightly different from the Quest 2s. So if you found the old one uncomfortable, you're probably going to feel the same way about this one.
So it sounds like they focus more on like the internal upgrades rather than the physical design.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, maybe they're saving the big comfort upgrades for the next generation.
Fingers crossed. Let's talk controllers, all right? The 3S uses those Quest 3 Touch Plus controllers. They got rid of the ring on top for like a sleeker look.
Right.
But I heard there are some downsides with the tracking.
Yeah, so the tracking does seem to be better when your hands are closer to your body.
Okay.
But, if you're doing stuff where your hands are above your head or if you're moving them really fast, the tracking can get a little iffy.
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like they kind of prioritize certain types of VR experiences with these controllers, maybe leaning more into those mixed reality scenarios like you were saying, where your hands are usually in front of you.
It could be. And it makes you think, with VR, there's no one perfect solution. It's all about trade-offs.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to how you plan on using the headset.
Exactly.
Like what features matter most to you?
For some people, that sleek design and the better hand tracking for certain tasks, that might be the priority.
Right.
Others, they might be like, nope, the tracking issues are a deal breaker for me.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of upgrades. We've talked about some potential drawbacks. But the bottom line is the Quest 3S worth it?
Well, I think, it depends. If you're totally new to VR or if you're just like not happy with your Quest 2 experience, the 3S is a pretty noticeable upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, the performance, the visuals, the mixed reality stuff. But
Yeah.
if you're happy with your Quest 2, I think you could probably wait.
Yeah, it's fair.
See what they come up with next.
Especially with all the rumors about, like, even better lens tech coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, who knows what they're going to come up with next. The tech world moves so fast.
It really does. All right, so I think we've got a pretty good handle on, like, the hardware side of the 3S, but we've only scratched the surface of this whole VR world, right?
Right.
What else can we dive into?
Well, I'm really interested in, like, the content side of things. Because, what's a great headset without amazing games and experiences?
Totally. Like, what's the VR gaming landscape looking like these days?
How does the 3S fit into all of that?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I think that's definitely something we can explore.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
So we were talking about the VR gaming scene and, where the Quest 3S fits in. I think things are getting really interesting right now. We're kind of moving past those early VR games that felt more like, just demos and getting into games that are actually immersive and fun.
Yeah, it feels like VR gaming is finally like hitting its stride. You've got the bigger studios getting involved. The quality of the games is just getting so much better.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like the early days of consoles, when everything just felt like so new and exciting.
I agree, totally. And with the 3S, with its, better hardware, especially that new chip, I bet we're going to see even more games that look amazing and, really push the limits.
Yeah.
Stuff that just wouldn't have worked on the old Quest 2.
That makes me wonder, are we going to start seeing more games that are like specifically designed for mixed reality? Taking advantage of the color pass-through, the better hand tracking.
Yeah, I think that's where things are going. Imagine games where you can like seamlessly blend your real surroundings with, virtual stuff.
Yeah.
Just opens up so many possibilities for developers. It's crazy.
It's like the line between, reality and fantasy is blurring. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it from like a storytelling perspective. Like imagine games where your living room turns into, a magical forest or your kitchen becomes like a high-tech lab.
Exactly. And, Meta's really pushing the limits of what you can do with affordable VR. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what mixed reality gaming can be.
Do you think the 3S is like a big enough jump to really, get developers excited to make totally new types of games?
I think it could be. The color pass-through, the hand tracking, those are tools that developers haven't really had before, at least not in a headset at this price. I think we're going to see games that really blur the lines between, VR and AR.
Yeah.
And create experiences that are both like immersive and interactive with the real world.
It's like opening a door to a whole new dimension of gaming. It's pretty wild when you think about it.
For sure. And it's not just games.
Yeah.
Think about all the other stuff you could do with this tech.
Yeah.
Education training, even like how we connect with other people.
Oh, there's a good point. Imagine, learning about history by actually stepping into like a virtual version of ancient Rome.
Yeah, right.
Or practicing surgery on a virtual patient before you even, step into an operating room.
Exactly. VR can like revolutionize so many different parts of our lives. And I think the Quest 3S is a big step towards making that happen for more people.
It's funny. We've been talking about all these amazing possibilities, but the article did mention one pretty big downside to the 3S.
Yeah.
The strap.
Yeah. That was a bummer. Seems like Meta didn't really put much effort into making the strap more comfortable, which is a shame, because it's such a big part of how much you enjoy VR.
Totally. Especially for like those longer gaming sessions. I've heard a lot of people complain about the Quest 2 strap, and it sounds like the 3S hasn't really fixed that.
It's a missed opportunity, for sure. I mean, so many people end up buying like third-party straps just to make their headsets comfortable.
It just goes to show that sometimes it's like the simplest things that can make the biggest difference.
Totally. All the fancy tech in the world doesn't matter if the headset's like digging into your head.
Speaking of simple things, maybe we should talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The price. The Quest 3S is definitely more affordable than some of those super high-end VR headsets.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of money, for most people.
Right. And it raises the question, like, who is the 3S actually for?
Yeah.
Is it for the people who like live and breathe VR and always need the latest gadget? Or is it for someone who's just kind of curious about VR, wants to try it out without spending a fortune?
It's a great question. It kind of goes back to that idea we were talking about before, the 3S being like a gateway to the metaverse. It's cheap enough to get new people interested, but it's also powerful enough to give them a taste of what's possible.
Yeah.
And hopefully, get them hooked.
It's like Meta is playing the long game, get as many people as possible using their VR stuff. Because they know that as the technology gets better, those people are going to be ready to upgrade.
It's a smart strategy.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
We talked about gaming, we talked about education, but what about like the really big societal changes that VR could bring as this technology gets more popular and easier to get? How is it going to change the way we live and work and, interact with each other?
That's a huge question. And I think it's worth exploring more. It's pretty clear that VR could totally transform our world in a lot of ways. Some good and, maybe some not so good.
Yeah. It is exciting to think about how VR could change the world, but also a little scary. Like on the one hand, you have all this potential for good stuff.
Yeah.
Connecting people, creating amazing educational experiences, even helping people with like phobias and stuff. But then there's the other side of it.
Exactly. We got to think about the downsides too.
Yeah.
Privacy issues, the spread of misinformation, maybe even people blurring the lines between what's real and what's virtual so much that they disconnect from real life.
Yeah, it's like we're at this crossroads. VR could be this amazing tool for progress, but it could also make some of the problems we already have even worse.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to talk about it. We need to think critically about how we're developing this technology and using it.
Wow.
Making sure it actually benefits humanity,
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in all the cool new gadgets and games, but we can't forget about the big picture.
Right. We need to be asking the tough questions, like how do we protect people's privacy when their virtual actions are being tracked all the time? How do we make sure that VR experiences are inclusive and accessible for everyone?
Yeah.
And how do we prevent VR from becoming another way to divide people?
A lot to think about. But, I'm actually optimistic. I think if we approach VR with a sense of responsibility and, we're committed to ethical development, it really could make the world a better place.
I agree. And I think the fact that we're even having these conversations now, before VR is everywhere is a good sign. It means we're starting to think about these issues early on, which hopefully means we'll have more thoughtful innovation.
So where does the Quest 3S fit into all this?
I think it's an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
By making VR more affordable and easier to get this, the 3S is letting way more people experience this technology and start thinking about how it could impact their lives. It's like a gateway to this whole new world, and it's up to us to decide what kind of world we want it to be.
Well said. I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Yeah.
The future of VR is still being written, and we all have a part in shaping it.
For sure. We got to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on today, from the specifics of the Quest 3S to the bigger questions about VR in general.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
It really has. Thanks so much for being here and walking us through all this.
My pleasure.
And a huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even inspiring.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us out. And subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the tech that matters to you.
This has been Everyday Tech Explained.
Until next time.